Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Today I've got something awesome for you to help you grow your YouTube channel. We brought in an expert actually at Facebook ads. He does video ads, scripting, a whole bunch more. And James is gonna teach us about how to grow your channel with some of the tactics he uses in direct response marketing. Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so I specialize in Facebook advertising, and my goal is to help grow companies and increase their customers through what's called direct response advertising. And through direct response, it basically means that when you create an ad or a video, the idea is to get them to take action. And obviously in YouTube, the goal is to get people to consume your information, and as you said earlier, to have people watch another video of yours. My goal is to get people to take action in the moment, such as submitting their information or taking some other bigger action to get in front of a company.
Gotcha. So I think that's a really great place to start, because on YouTube, like having people take an action, first of all, like this channel, as you guys know, we're big about building a YouTube-based business. So sometimes that means getting them onto a website to buy something. Sometimes that means getting them onto another YouTube video so you can grow your channel organically. What's a big tip you got for getting people to take action on that call to action?
Yeah, so when you have a call to action, you need to have something that's kind of connecting to the core of that person's problem or want, right? If you don't actually connect to the person's emotions, you don't have a chance of them taking action. So for example, you could say at the end of your video, you could have a call to action that says, hey, click on the link below for the next video. Or you could say, if you want to get healthier in the next 30 days, and if you want to learn the best routines, I made a list of things that you can read to figure out how to live healthier over the next 30 days. So that's connecting more closer to the emotion. Basically, if someone has a want or if they have a problem, you need to talk to those wants or problems.
Okay. Can you dig deeper into that? How do you get into people's wants, their problems, and to their emotions?
Yeah. So it all starts with asking people why. And what's funny is whenever you ask people, if you ask them to, so let's say, for example, if you want to grow your YouTube channel,
okay,
I'll ask you, why do you want to grow your YouTube channel? What would you say?
To build a business.
Yeah, okay. So see, most people stop there and they say, okay, that's your why. They want to grow, their business, but that's not the emotional reason why. There's a deeper reason why, and we don't have to go into the full details if you don't want, but that first question is not very emotional. Like, nobody stays up at night or gets really excited and saying, oh, I'm so excited to grow my business. No, they usually say, I'm excited because I have massive progress, I have momentum, I'm getting fame, I have more money so I can support my family and my friends. Like, those are the more emotional whys. Right. And everybody has that reason why, but whenever you ask someone initially, it's like, what's your why? Oh, I want to get more leads. Oh, I want more views on my YouTube channel. But that's not the real reason why. Right. The real reason why is they want the infamy, they want the more money coming in, they want something, status, whatever it is. So does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So anytime, I guess the takeaway is like when you want someone to take action, don't just go to the first why, dig a little deeper. How do you get to that next level, like the more emotional level from the I want to build a business to fame and all the other things?
Right. So it's just asking why several times.
Okay.
And just knowing that even when you observe yourself and you ask yourself, why am I doing this? That first answer that you give to yourself even is not the true why.
Okay.
There's a deeper why. So the solution is just keep asking why until you get to that point where somebody lights up and, to that moment where they're like, wow, this is really great. And they're like motivated, like they can feel the emotions because you've hit on that why. You've hit on the emotional reason why they're there.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so we were talking about this before we got on camera. I want to hear about what you said you've lately been finding is the big key for successful ads, which we were talking about how is also very, very important on YouTube.
Yes. So back to creating emotion and getting people to take action. Emotion is the biggest motivator. You can't have, even someone who's the most dull and straightforward in the most dull and straightforward industry, if you're talking to someone, they're not there to talk to this boring person just to be bored or just to get information. They're trying to get information for a reason.
Right.
Like they still have that emotional reason behind that. So in your YouTube videos and in your thumbnails, when you show emotion, it actually creates excitement in people. They have what's called the mirror neurons. So when a human is looking at another human and they can tell that there's a lot of energy in that person, you tend to kind of take on that same energy that they have. And having that feeling just by looking at a thumbnail or an image of somebody creates much more of a connection, a human connection, than if you just had a straight face. Like, this is the same old person that's got a neutral emotion.
Right.
It doesn't create much need or want to find out what's on the other end of that video.
Okay, so to get people's emotions involved, start with showing your emotion would be like the big advice?
Show your emotion in your thumbnails and in your videos. If you show excitement, if you show the energy, people feel that. Like it's a very a natural and just human reaction. People follow emotion. And that's why all these movies are popular. The massive like John Wick, like man, that is so gory. But people love that because it's so intense. So if you can do that in your videos, that's the winning formula, is to be able to evoke emotion, and not just one emotion. We could talk about that in a minute too if you want.
Let's talk about it right now. Let's get right to it.
So a lot of people, whenever they write ads or when they do videos, they tend to say, okay, great, I want this person to feel happy, right? But that's not how human emotions happen. People have a wide range of emotions.
Right.
So if you think about a movie, there's not just this one big up, or there's not just this one big down. There's always that moment where things are kind of okay, you're kind of setting the storyline, then suddenly things get really great, really great, and then suddenly something happens and this person or situation just hits rock bottom. So now you've had this fun time and you've had this really low rock bottom, bad, horrible emotion.
Right.
And then at the end, it usually, finds itself out, right?
Right.
So you can't just have all happy videos. Now, there's definitely some videos where you can't just try to be happy and sad, and there's more informational stuff that you need to get across, that you can't just be all over the place. But if you can show a range of emotions across your videos, it really helps. Kind of going back to the wants versus pain points. If you just keep hitting on the wants, people actually get tired of it over time. They're like, yeah, the top 5 most popular or most profitable niches. Yeah, the top 5 ways to boost your YouTube video rankings.
Right.
Like, those are great. Those are fun things. But if you can mix that in with something like, I screwed up, I lost $30,000 last year.
Right.
Like that, people are attracted to that too.
Yeah.
So, and you need to have the combination of the two.
Tell us about headlines. Any big pieces of advice for that? Because we kind of touched on that, but do you have any like formulas that you use for headlines, or for YouTube it would be titles, but anything you can give us on that side of things?
Absolutely,
Awesome.
yeah. So on the titles in YouTube, there are several formulas that I follow. The first one is, if you can get numbers inside of the titles, it's just a percentage of your titles can have numbers. And you don't want to always have numbers. You don't want to have all of anything, right? But if you can put numbers in there, like what became very popular years ago was the listicles inside of BuzzFeed, right?
Right.
And that was the thing. And people love list, and it still works. And there's trends that wave, and I'd love to talk about that too.
Okay.
But yeah, so I like including numbers because it becomes more tangible to the person. So if you see numbers and you can actually make tangible, instead of saying how to grow your YouTube channel versus how to grow 30,000 subscribers in 30 days. And yes, that kind of it's become a cliche. A lot of people say that, but it's because it works.
Right.
And because people can actually put tangible numbers, and they can actually start dreaming in their mind, what would it be like if I had 30,000 subscribers, right? So numbers is a big thing for me. Another thing is, again, back to the emotions, how to avoid being in debt, how to, win at basketball, things like that.
Right.
But mixing all that stuff in is very important.
Okay.
But the more visual you can make it, the better.
Okay.
So yeah, those are a couple tips.
So making it a little more visual in their mind. I think the number thing is huge.
If you can, stories is another great way to create great titles.
Okay.
So if you can start narrating a story inside of the title, people are more drawn to that.
Okay.
So when you get into the story, when I talk about visual stuff, like it's massively different. And I'm going to mess this up. I said this earlier to you, but you know, you can have a story of what you did for the day. You know, I got up, I had breakfast, I went to the beach. It was great. It was a lot of fun. Let me tell you, it was so amazing. So there's that, and then there's oh man, I woke up, the birds were chirping, the sun was warm. I felt the warm sun on my face. We drove down to the beach, and we had the windows down, and the breeze was just coming by, and I could just feel it. There was people out on the beach having a great time. Like, it was just a wonderful experience. And that creates so much more of an emotion, and people can actually visualize it as you're talking about driving down the road with the windows down and the breeze blowing in your face. People can visualize that in their mind.
Right.
So they're more likely to connect with that than if you just said, yeah, I went down to the beach, it was great.
That's really, really good. I like that. I kind of want to go to the beach now.
Me too.
So tell us about the trends.
Yeah, so that's another thing. And when you have something that's working, especially in marketing, or when you're working with a lot of people, such as when you're doing YouTube videos, you'll see a lot of trends. You'll see people that do the listicles. You'll see people that do the emotional face in the thumbnails. They have these types of titles. They do, you know, the little marks, like the Gary V. He's got the little stamp that happens right after his videos. Those are great, but what happens is the way trends work is, and I forget the term. I wish I remember it, but as trends continue to rise, there'll be a peak where those trends start to work in reverse. So it's not just a law of diminishing returns. It's not that what happens just becomes less valuable. It starts negating. So people start actually hating, and hate's a strong word here, but subconsciously people see the same thing over and over again. They'll start disliking that thing that worked 6 months ago because they're overexposed to it.
So you got to hit it early.
So you've got to hit it early, but also you need to continue creating new things that people aren't doing. And what's interesting is, so I've studied advertising from, you know, all the way back from 100 years ago when it was totally different back then.
Right.
But at the same time, it was exactly the same. And what's interesting is, as you see a trend happening, what was happening 6 months before that trend might be working. So, you know, the trend that was working 5 years ago that stopped because everybody got overexposed, you might be able to try that again a year or two later, and it would work again.
Okay.
Because people their sensitivity to it went away because they kind of forgot about it. So you can kind of go back and make it a cyclical trend. So whatever you see today, in other words, a year from now may be bad, but what was working a year before could be good.
Right, we can see that, I guess, with clothing. Bell bottoms came back for a little while. Grunge
Right.
style came back for a little. So yeah, okay.
Yeah.
And you kind of hinted at this. I don't know if you're gonna go down that path. What do you think about like trying to make your own trend, create something new?
Yeah. So you have to kind of push the envelope. You know, it's actually funny, Gary Vee says this a lot too, is keep pushing content. And even if it's something you don't think is right, or, you know, you don't know if it's going to be that popular, push it out anyway. And, you know, if it's something that seems right to you, or if it's something that's odd or quirky, keep pushing it. So I think that 20% of whatever you put out there should be testing.
Right.
So if we put it into numbers, so for every 10 videos, you need to have at least 2 videos that's different from the normal narrative, that's different from the normal headlines, that's just kind of testing and see how people respond.
Okay, that's interesting. I like that idea. And I kind of do that to some degree. I don't think I go probably quite enough, maybe sometimes. Always testing though. So the last thing, and this is, I think, is a really good one for like anything, because obviously you have a background in copywriting, you do Facebook video ads. So there's obviously an element of scripting or copywriting, I guess, however you want to call it, depending on any tips on that side of things?
Yeah, for scripting things out?
Yeah, scripting, copywriting, and that kind of like keeping people from getting them from start to finish and taking action.
Right. So when I make videos, it's very structured, but it's not word for word.
Okay.
So usually whenever I start with a video, I'll say, okay, here's the top 5 points that I need to cover. And this actually comes from, I've learned this from selling. There's a straight line formula, which Jordan Belfort, which is the Wolf of Wall Street guy, right? It's talking about these are the pillars of what needs to be mentioned in a video. And, you know, those pillars can be pieces of information, or they could be emotion points.
Oh, okay.
So if you can lay it out and say, this is the emotion I want to evoke here, here's the information I want to evoke here. And if you just memorize that structure, those 4 or 5 things, all I do is I read that heavily, I have it memorized, and then I just talk normally. And then my brain just kind of triggers, okay, I already talked about this topic, it's time for the next one.
Right. How do you, so one last question on that. How do you figure out like what the emotions are that you're gonna do? Is it just based on each video is different, or is there a certain structure you always go to, or?
Yeah, so I think producing content consistently can be difficult because sometimes you run out of ideas.
Right.
Like sometimes it's like, what do I say now that I haven't said a million times before, right? So the way I do it is first of all, I get into momentum of creating videos every day, and that helps. But whatever the last conversation I had with somebody was, I take that thought and I think more deeply about it. Usually in the conversations, there's some emotional point, and whenever I pull out a topic, this is how I do it. So whenever I find the topic that I want to talk about, sometimes the topic could be made controversial, or it could be made, a positive or a negative light. I don't worry about, okay, I've got to make a negative video now because I've done 2 positives, or I've got to make a positive video. A lot of times, to be honest, it's really how I'm feeling about the conversation.
Okay.
Going back to congruency, we haven't talked about that yet, but whenever I make videos, I don't want to make a video that I'm not interested in the moment. Like there's a lot of things that cross through my mind that I'm like, in the moment, like I'm in the shower. It always happens. I'm in the shower when I have these great moments of forethought, right?
With you on that, yeah.
Yeah, and I hate it, but the second that I get out, if I'm not thinking about it or feeling that emotion of what I'm just thinking about, I don't make a video about it. And I think that's important because, the idea is to have emotion in your video. If you don't really connect with it and you're just kind of, you said, I thought of this last week and, I need to talk about it. If you don't really feel that connection, you may not want to talk about it, because if you're not fully connected, people can tell. People can tell if you're just reading off a script, even if it's something you made, they'll know that, you're not into it. So they'll feel the same thing that you're feeling.
Completely can relate to that, because I plan all my videos in advance. And so sometimes I'm like going through my notes of videos I can make. I'm like, well, I don't feel like making this one today, so we're skipping that. And I'll go to the ones that like, okay, I can actually vibe with this right now. And I think that you're right, that's important.
Yeah.
Because like you said earlier, your emotion affects their emotion. So
Exactly.
it's all got to be there. James, if you need any help with Facebook ads, direct response, any of that kind of stuff, right?
Absolutely, yep.
Kind of his thing. As you can tell, he knows his stuff. He knows a lot about psychology, selling, emotion, video, scripting. He's kind of an all-around evil genius, so make sure you check him out. And if you want to learn how I actually made 3 years worth of YouTube content in 30 days, I'm gonna have a video popping up on the screen that will show you exactly how I did that. It's another YouTube video. Thanks for hanging out, James. And be sure to subscribe to the channel or he will come for you.